Well, as we just mentioned, this weekend, Republican presidential candidates responded to the attacks in Israel and outlined their views of America's role on the global stage. They also criticized President Biden's approach. Listen.
We need very strong support for the state of Israel. We also have a situation where their policy in the Biden administration has been to play nice with Iran.
The brutal murder of citizens is an act of savagery that must and will be crushed. It has to be dealt with very powerfully. This is a time where the United States needs leadership.
So what happened is heinous. I mean, it's barbaric medieval attack on our most important democratic ally in the Middle East. And we have to be very clear about that. I said so yesterday that we have to support Israel in being able to defend its own national existence.
For more on this, we're joined by CBS political reporter Aaron Navarro. Aaron, we've, as we just played for our viewers, heard this message of support of Israel from all the GOP candidates. Let me just read for our viewers the statement by President Biden. The United States unequivocally condemns this appalling assault against Israel by Hamas. I made clear to Prime Minister Netanyahu that we stand ready to offer all appropriate means of support to the government and people of Israel. My administration's support for Israel's security is rock solid and unwavering. In other words, the president's message doesn't sound at all different from what we're hearing from the candidates that are running to replace him in the White House.
That's correct, Vlad. And two consistent threats have come from these Republican candidates in Iowa and in New Hampshire. One, that they voiced a full-throated support for Israel's military response. Some have used the rhetoric of rooting out Hamas or, quote, finish them, as Nikki Haley has said, kind of showing support for whatever military actions Israel wants to take. And the second part is that they are linking President Biden and this deal for prisoners in Iran, American prisoners, for $6 billion of frozen assets that U.S. agencies say can only be used for humanitarian aid by Iran. However, these Republican candidates are saying, look, money is fungible. If Iran knows they're getting money for one thing, they can, potentially use money for another to financially back Hamas. It's Republicans have taken this moment to criticize President Biden on an area of foreign policy. This is something they have been doing since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And so far, in this immediate reaction to the situation in the Middle East, they are doing in bits and pieces right now.
And Aaron, we've already kind of started this process of the political candidates being on the record, talking about what's going on. Given that we've seen unfathomable bloodshed, loss of life, will now this campaign season sort of shift its focus to prioritize foreign policy?
So far, it looks that way, at least in this immediate aftermath. The whole weekend, I was covering Governor DeSantis on his bus tour in Iowa. He began a lot of his remarks talking about Israel and the situation there. And, the war in Ukraine kind of has been ongoing as the 2024 cycle started to heat up. But this situation is fresh. It's something that Republican candidates think that they can talk about, especially former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who has that foreign policy experience. But one interesting thing I'm hearing from voters in this, immediate reaction is that they are, of course, disavowing the attacks. They think it is horrible, but they are nervous about the amount of aid that the U.S. could be sending to Israel. Note that since 2016, the U.S. has been sending billions of aid annually to Israel, but they say, given that the situation in Ukraine, their problems with the southern border, that the United States government may not be focusing as much on its people.
Aaron Navarro, thank you so much for your reporting and your time. We appreciate it this morning.